We'll get ready when Dino's ready. Wow, I haven't felt this safe since I can't remember when. Yeah, I'd like to see a terrorist come in right now. I'm hiding. All right, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's the meeting of the Santee City Council. It's Wednesday, February 12th, 2025, 6:30 p.m. And let the record reflect that all council members are present and accounted for. Tonight we're going to do our Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to do the invocation. Of course, that's first because God before everything else. And so tonight doing that is our good friend, Marshall Masser, who's the lead minister at Lakeside Christian Church. Marshall has been with the church for 19 years, where he is a preaching pastor, vision caster, staff leader, and small group teacher. Marshall completed his undergraduate work at Ozark Christian College. Ozark Christian College is in the city of Joplin, Missouri, on a 60-acre campus. The college is near Kansas City, Fayetteville, Branson, and Tulsa. The college began as the Ozark Bible College in 1942 with only 16 students. Today, with over 15,000 students and over 78 years later, OCC continues to train men and women for Christian services. Over 90% of the graduates enter vocational or volunteer ministry. Marshall obtained his master's degree from Lincoln Christian University in Lincoln, Illinois. Lincoln Christian University is a Christian higher education community whose mission is to nurture and equip Christians with a biblical worldview to serve and lead in the church and the world. Marshall and his wife Claudia have been involved in leadership ministry for over 27 years. They have two daughters, Sydney and London. And Marshall is a member of are you still a member of the San Diego Mission Rescue, Bike Rescue Team? Mission Rescue Team, I'm sorry, Mountain Rescue Team. Boy, that's easy for you guys to say, right? And so he loves biking, and I'm talking about a bicycle you have to pedal for real, and something that he and I enjoy. He loves to swim, run, hike, and mountain climb. That's why you're part of that mountain rescue team. And so we welcome you here again tonight, Marshall, and thank you very much for being here. We ask that you pray for our country, our state, and for the city council and all the people that we serve. So please rise for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, who will be given tonight by Santee.
Let us pray. Gracious God, the scriptures tell us that you're the creator of the universe, that you have named the stars. And while you're holding all that together, the scriptures also tell us that you care about us and that you're with us. And so we acknowledge your presence. We bow our heads in a form of showing our reverence and our worship of you. Lord, I thank you for these leaders that confess that they need help and they ask for clergy to come and to request that help. And so I do that now. I do pray for our nation. I pray that you would guide our leaders. I pray for our state. Pray that you would guide our leaders. And I pray for this community, and I pray that you would guide these leaders. Lord, we thank you that the rains have come and our community was protected from fires. We pray that you help this group as they continue to navigate this city in a safe way. I ask that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you.
Please place your right hand over your heart and begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You okay down there?
Oh, man, that was a good place. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Yes.
All right, tonight we have a certificate of recognition, and I'm going to let Ron take the lead on that. I'll go down and help out. What the heck?
Deputy Jabor, would you mind coming up, please? So Deputy Jabor is graduated from, he's being recognized tonight for his 1,700 hours in last year of service with the Sheriff's Department. He graduated from the Police Academy in 2023, a Level 1 Reserve, which means he has the same training required as a California police officer and the same training as any full-time deputy. He's one of only 2 Level Reserve reserves in the San Diego County Sheriff's Office. So pretty amazing he's been able to do that. In 2024, he completed his last phase. Since then, he's volunteered 1,700 hours, which includes Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. He handles radio calls, covers his partners, conducts traffic stops, and I was with him on one, so we really had some interesting time. He often takes low priority calls so the other deputies can handle other calls. And he's also been recruited for the Special Enforcement Detail as one of the Bearcat drivers. He's a devoted family man. His wife and daughter are here. Has a full-time job on top of all those hours that he's put in. Yet he still manages to volunteer a lot of time. And I rode with him one time, and we're going to actually ride together soon because I promised him I'd come back again. And it was 12-hour shifts he puts in. So it's a long day, and I got 10 of them, but not quite 12. When Deputy Jor isn't volunteering, he also works and donates his time at the sheriff's substation, and he's actually worked at the Poway conducting DUI checkpoints. So approximately 30 stops were conducted that night. The Sheriff's Station Command has received phone calls and letters thanking Deputy Jor for the service. He's an excellent representative for the Santee Sheriff's Station and is an asset to the Santee Sheriff's Office, a role for all his other reserve units, and a model sheriff's deputy to the Sheriff's Office. And congratulations, and we want to thank you for this.
So what we have here for you So what we have prepared for you here is a City of Santee Certificate of Recognition, and this certificate is proudly presented in recognition of Deputy Jabor. The City of Santee recognizes Deputy Jabor for the exemplary performance he has provided in his volunteer work with the San Diego County Sheriff's Office since 2023. Thank you for your vast number of hours you have dedicated to the citizens of San Diego County, which of course includes Santee. And I got to tell you, you've been around so much, I didn't know you were a reserve officer. That's pretty interesting. I actually was a reserve police officer in 1979. You probably weren't born or just barely old enough, right? Not yet, yeah. And then I became a police officer. So I know what you go through as a reserve officer and what the deputies go through, protecting people. And today it's a very, very tough job, a lot different from when I started. And so it means a lot for me to have you spending your time off away from your family protecting our citizens. So thank you very much. Here's this. Now, I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak if you like.
That's a mistake.
Find out if you're a politician or not.
Hello, check. So, thank you very much. It's humbling, it's honoring, and it's unnecessary. But thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank my family, my wife, for allowing me to do this. She knows I've been wanting to do this since the 90s, and this has been a dream come true for me. Second, I would like to recognize command staff, captain, lieutenants, and the sergeants for allowing me to essentially go out on the streets and handle the calls and entrusting me. I also want to thank the deputies for continuously pouring into my life and giving me great advice and constantly teaching me and making me a better deputy. So thank you, everybody. And finally, I'd like to thank Santee and the councilman, mayor, for allowing me to be here and also providing me this amazing award.
Well, thanks. I'm going to invite all the deputies down here to do a picture. But in the meantime, while they're coming up, I need to have one question answered. So Ron says he went out on 12-hour shift with you, but did 10 hours. That's because he slept the other two?
No, Ron did great. He was awake the whole time.
Definitely wasn't 10 hours.
And did he leave fingerprint marks on the dashboard at all?
He did, and we swabbed them, and he's clear.
All right. All right. Thanks a lot. Yeah, family, come on up here also. You're part of this.
Here we go. Right.
All right. Before we do the consent calendar, one thing I like to do is move the CDBG things to the very end of the meeting, because I want to make sure everybody's here to watch the rest of the meeting. Is that okay with you guys? No, those are some of the faces I expected to see when I said that. All right, then. Let's go to the calendar here. Let's see. Do I have any items to be added, deleted, or reordered? Ron?
No.
Laura?
None for me.
None from me.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Not for me, sir.
City Manager?
No, sir.
City Attorney?
No, Mayor.
Speaker slips?
No, sir.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to
approve
approve?
consent?
I have a motion?
Second.
And a second. And please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. And that takes us to item number, let's go to non-agenda public hearing first.
Oh, whoops.
So you almost got me to buy into it.
Adam Smosna.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Thought we were going to make you wait till the very end, didn't
I
you?
thought so. I was like, oh no. Is that a timer on this? I should start talking?
Attaboy.
Oh, okay, sweet. So, good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. My name is Adam Smosna, and I'm a member of the Santee Firefighters Association, Local 4373, and I'm a firefighter paramedic for the city of Santee. I've been at Santee for 6 years now. I currently live in Eucalyptus Hills. I was born and raised East County, and I have multiple family members that live in Santee. I'm here to address the needs of our fire department and talk about infrastructure and staffing. So, we all know, these are all facts you guys already have heard before and know very well, but we've had two stations since 1964. The station I'm at was built in 1972, and it's falling apart around our guys right now. You guys know we've done a tax initiative to try to address these issues. We've had the same exact staffing since the year 2000. Since then, our call volume's doubled, and our response times are double in multiple areas of the city, on the north end and on the south end. We do commend you guys and appreciate you guys. You guys helped us get a temporary fire station on the south end to address those needs, but we all know the north end still needs to be addressed. Just last week, we had a fire on the north end of the city with reported victims in a structure fire. It was a working structure fire, and it took our units 8 minutes to respond to this call. For us, it's just unacceptable. We just want to be proactive and not reactive with this. Right now, we're just struggling to provide the services that all of the citizens, including you guys, deserve. We all just saw what happened with the fires in LA, and we just want to get ahead of it. And it's not an if when that happens down here, but when it does. And we just want to be well prepared for situations like that. Sorry, let me get to my notes. We're just excited to continue to grow with the city. We just want to match the city of Santee. I love this city. I've only been here for 6 years, but I'm not planning on leaving anytime soon. I have 24 more years of service at least. I don't want to be here in 20 years trying to address the same issues, and I know you guys have been doing your best, this council especially, by addressing these issues, because we are on the same page that we need to do this. I'm not angry, I'm just passionate. That's why I'm here tonight. I just want to speak to the needs and to continue to address this. The station we're at was built in 1972, and we recently just finished Class A inspections, which is where for 2 months, all of the personnel in Santee go around and deep clean the stations and identify needs of our stations. And we've identified this Station 4 needs millions of dollars worth of repairs as well. So right now, we're just asking that we find and secure a source of funding. Our members attempted for the past year by standing in front of grocery stores, trying to collect 6,000 signatures to get it on the ballot, which we did, and then campaign going door to door on our days off to try to make this happen. And unfortunately, we were unsuccessful. So right now, as an association, we're just here to ask you guys what your plan is. We're excited to see what it is and try to address these issues. We're well aware it's been a can that's been kicked down the road, but we're excited to help and excited to tackle these problems, and we'll see you guys out there and do it. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
No further speakers, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, takes us to item number 8. That's a public hearing to assess community development needs and to solicit proposals for the program year 2025 Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG, and home program funding consistent with the consolidated plan. And finding action is not a project subject to the California Environmental Quality Act. Bill.
Good evening, Mayor Minto, Vice Mayor McNillis, and City Council members. Before I get started with my presentation, as you can see from my earlier getting up here, I was pretty excited to deliver it. And I wanted to introduce Brittany Gores, who's seated right over here. She is new with the city and will be assuming the role of CDBG administrator. So thank you, Brittany. Earlier today, I introduced you to many of the subrecipients that are here. So this is the first of 2 public hearings to identify community needs and prioritize federal community development block grant funding for the upcoming program year. During this first meeting, staff will highlight the CDBG program requirements and give an overview of the applicants submitted by nonprofit service providers. It's at this meeting that the applicants will address the City Council on the merits of their applications. Staff will return on February 26th to ask for directions on the activities to be funded and included in the next annual action plan. The objective of the CDBG program is to improve housing, public services, capital infrastructure, and economic opportunities for low and moderate income persons. Eligible uses of CDBG funds are divided into 3 categories, which are public services, infrastructure, and program administration, and that includes fair housing. HUD has not announced the city's allocation amount for program year 2025, which is from July of 25 to June of 26. Therefore, staff has estimated that the city will receive roughly $322,700 for planning purposes. The HOME program provides funds to states and localities to provide housing opportunities for low-income persons. Historically, the city has utilized HOME funds for the first-time homebuyer program. The city participates in a consortium with the cities of Carlsbad, Encinitas, La Mesa, San Marcos, and the County of San Diego for federal home monies to fund affordable housing programs and to administer the program. During calendar year 2024, 1 first-time homebuyer program loan was completed in in Santee. Staff believes the lack of these loans is largely due to the high housing costs combined with high interest rates. In the prior fiscal year, only 8 loans were completed countywide. The chart on this slide shows the total estimated amount for program year 2025 was calculated. Interest earned totaling $15,000 was added to the estimated grant amount to make the total amount available for allocation $324,204. This table is in the staff report and lists the 3 activity categories which may be funded. HUD regulations place caps or funding limits on activity categories. The cap calculations are based on the annual allocation and the program income, but exclude prior year carry forwards. Public services is capped at 15%, administrative activities is capped at 20%, and public infrastructure facilities are not capped. A notice of funding availability was posted on the city's website, and emailed to interested parties on December 6, 2024. 7 requests were received by the January 13th deadline in response to the NOFA. This slide shows the 6 applications that were received for public service activities, the amounts requested, and the amount these applicants were funded in the current program year. A summary of the applications received in each activity category can be found in attachment 2 to the staff report. A copy of each application is also included in attachment 3 to the staff report. This slide shows the proposed administrative activities, the amounts requested, and the amounts allocated in the current program year. A copy of the CSA San Diego County application is also included in attachment 3 to the staff report. This slide shows the public facilities / infrastructure funding. The proposed $210,804 is to be allocated towards program year 2025 public infrastructure, specifically for the next phase of the citywide ADA pedestrian ramp project. Staff recommends the City Council open the public hearing, receive testimony, and continue the public hearing to February 26. On February 26, the Council will decide on the funding requests and amounts. Finally, staff will return in April with a draft annual action plan for program year 2025 that incorporates the direction provided by the City Council on the 26th. This concludes my report. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank
Let's
you.
go to speaker slip.
The first speaker is Jared Hernandez.
Hello. First off, I want to say thank you to the mayor and the council members for providing such a welcoming environment. I've never seen so many smiles at a city council meeting. With that said, my name is Jared Hernandez, and I'm the executive director of CSA San Diego County. I've been working at CSA for about over 2 years now, and my previous experience includes managing CDBG block grants. CSA San Diego County is a Department of Housing and Urban Development approved fair housing agency. We've been proudly operating for over 55 years, and we have been in partnership with the city of Santee for over 20 years. CSA's mission is the promotion of social justice and public welfare through programs, services, and advocacy against all forms of discrimination, including advocacy for the eradication of housing discrimination and ensuring equal housing opportunities for all individuals. We are committed to promoting and enforcing fair housing laws and equal housing opportunities for all individuals who live in San Diego County, including the city of Santee. This year, the city of Santee amended our agreement to include rental housing discrimination tests to determine the existence of housing discrimination practices. I'm happy to share that CSA has completed the testing and is working on finalizing the report. A few tests did return positive, and because of this, CSA is working on expanding our efforts in Santee. I will meet with Santee's new senior management analyst, Ms. Brittany Gores, to discuss the testing and inform her of our efforts going forward. We at CSA really appreciate the City of Santee's consideration for the upcoming community development block grant application cycle. If we are selected, CSA will continue to provide Santee residents with consultation and response to all fair housing tenant-landlord calls from residents, providing advocacy for equal housing opportunities, assist victims of discrimination under state and federal law and process violations, make referrals to HUD or the California Civil Rights Department, conduct fair housing testing, increase the knowledge of both tenants and landlords in Santee about rental housing rights and responsibilities, conduct education, outreach activities and training, and continually provide quarterly reports. CSA has maintained proper records and reports for all our CDBG agreements and has been compliant with all performance monitoring by the City of Santee in previous years. We expect to serve over 100 Santee residents. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Jared.
The next speaker is Rebecca Rader.
Thank you all for allowing me to speak this evening. This is about the third time I've come to Santee, and I agree with the last speaker that you're always so friendly and warm and welcoming, and I know that you have to listen to a lot of people talk, so I appreciate that. I am the Chief Philanthropy Officer with Voices for Children. We are the CASA agency for San Diego County. CASA is a short or a nickname for Court-Appointed Special Advocates. We train volunteers that come from all walks of life, and they are matched with a child who's in the foster care system. And it's been proven that if they have one adult who has their back, who listens to them, who advocates for them in court, that their outcomes in life will be better. What we found is if they don't have that intervention, that one adult that listens to them, that empathizes with them, that problem solves for them, and then appears in court with them, about 25% of them will end up homeless by the age of 24. Many end up incarcerated. 50% won't graduate from high school. And you all know if you don't have a high school diploma, you're probably not going to have a very good job. So I ask that you consider granting our request, and I really appreciate all that you have done and that Bill has done for us in the past. You might not meet these children, but I want you to know you've made a really big difference in their life, and we're very appreciative. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Rebecca.
The next speaker is Tanya Hendricks.
Hello, City Council. Mayor Minto, Vice Mayor McNellis. Santee Santas would like to thank you for your generous support of the holiday program over many years. We are known in this community for providing food and toys to families each holiday season. In each qualifying family, children 0 to 10 receive gifts totaling approximately $150 in value. And each child 11 to 17 receives a $100 gift card to Target or Walmart. These toys and gifts are donated by our community or purchased with funds provided by private and corporate donors. In addition to gifts, each child receives books and family games, and all the gifts are wrapped and labeled for each individual child in the family. Families receive non-perishable food that will support them for 2 weeks. The entirety of the contributions we receive from the Community Development Block Grant supports this portion of our program. In addition, each family receives a gift card to purchase fresh food items. These gift cards are primarily provided by the efforts of the staff, teachers, and students of the Santee School District. I'm proud to report that this year, in 2024, Santee Santas served 204 families. 373 of those were children. 37 of those families were senior citizens. Over 200 poinsettia plants were distributed to the seniors in our local mobile home parks and our nursing homes. In all, we touched the lives of 742 individuals. Throughout the year, Santee Santas provides $500 in emergency assistance for Santee families that are displaced from their homes due to fire or flood, as recommended by the Santee Fire Department. And Santee also brings many members of our community together. Our community is, and all our program is an all-volunteer program. No one is paid. This year, over 200 volunteers gave from two or more hours of their time and donating time to fill boxes with food, to wrap presents, and to then deliver them to the citizens of Santee. This includes, junior and senior high school students, families, former and current recipients, employees of the workforce here in Santee, even though they may live in other communities, and of course, many of our council members. Santee Santas can only accomplish our mission with the support of our entire community. So tonight we request that you continue to support us, Santee Santas, by providing funds for our 2025 year. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
And thanks for all your help. It's good to see you this year, Laura. We had Laura.
The next speaker is Tim Ray.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. First of all, I want to thank you all so much for the many years that you guys have supported Meals on Wheels. Our mission, of course, is to provide healthy meals and safety checks to help people remain independent in their homes. We couldn't do that, of course, without our volunteers. The volunteers are the backbone of Meals on Wheels. I know you all have participated in our annual Champions Weeks, and we have that coming up actually the first week of March. So if you guys have time, we would love you guys to have another volunteer experience. Today, I'm respectfully asking for $5,000 that would cover the food and the packaging cost for 73 Santee seniors. We always say that seniors they're hungry for food, but they're actually starving for connection. Many of our clients, they don't have any friends, they don't have any families. Many of them are not connected with their neighbors. So it's our volunteers that actually fill that void. And we appreciate the fact that you guys support us, and we look forward to future partnerships with you folks. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
The next speaker is Kelsey Para.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. I love coming to these because I get to see all the other groups that are doing amazing work. And as a former CASA volunteer and Meals on Wheels volunteer, it makes me feel good to see the good that is being done out in the community. But that's not why I'm here. Crisis House is a Santee original. We started in Santee in 1970. Throughout that time have provided services for victims of domestic violence, kiddos who have been exposed to violence, and then the reason I'm here tonight is for our homeless services. We have been thrilled to partner with Santee throughout the years with CDBG funds and have utilized those in ways to help those in crisis. We are very lucky to be a part of the city manager's homeless working group where we're coming together and coming up with solutions. This funding request is to help us with our outreach team. Go out in the community, drive around on the streets, crawl around in bushes. Our outreach team is amazing and better at their jobs than I am at mine, probably. Throughout their services and with other funding through other agencies, we have housed, just in the last few months here, 7 folks who were experiencing homelessness in Santee and put them in permanent housing and then continued to work with them on supportive services. And so we're coming once again to partner with the city of Santee and provide those services for the folks that are experiencing crisis in the city. And we appreciate y'all for considering that request. Thank you.
The final speaker is Dennis Martins.
Honorable Mayor and City Council members, my name is Dennis Martins, and it's my privilege to come before you on behalf of the Santee Food Bank, of which I am the president of the board. First off, I'd just like to thank you for your generous support for the food bank over the past 41 years. Yes, the Santee Food Bank has been serving the people of Santee for 41 years, providing emergency food for those struggling with food insecurity. Every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, our volunteers give out food to those in need in Santee. And on the third Tuesday of each month, our volunteers give out commodities to people from all over San Diego. This past calendar year, we provided food to 4,609 Santee households, consisting of 14,575 individuals. In addition, we provided food for 9,251 households, resulting in 38,098 individuals outside of Santee, as we were operating as a super pantry for the San Diego Food Bank for the first 6 months of the year, which we had been doing since July of 2020 due to the COVID pandemic. Effective July 2024, we ended our relationship with the San Diego Food Bank as it pertains to the super pantry. We still have a relationship with, and that's what we do with the commodities on the third Tuesday of month. But at this point, as far as the pantries are concerned, we are serving Santee residents only. Now, you would think with the food bank no longer serving people out of Santee that our expenses would go down, but they have not. As a matter of fact, they have increased substantially, especially in the areas of electricity and insurance. With energy costs being at an all-time high and insurance premiums skyrocketing, and they're probably going to skyrocket some more. The last I heard, somebody was asking for like a 22% increase, I believe. Our operating costs have increased significantly. In addition to rising costs, we expect the number of households and individuals we will serve in Santee will increase as well, at a minimum of at least 3%, resulting in over 5,000 households and 15,000 individuals. Therefore, we are asking for $35,000 for the upcoming fiscal year. Thank you for your consideration of this matter.
Thanks, Dennis. Last speaker? Okay. All right, I'm going to go to council comments, but I want to go first on this. And, I remember back in 2002 when I first started, and we had a lot of money. I know you were attending the meetings, Rob, even though you weren't on the council yet. And you heard the stories. The stories really haven't changed. Not much, anyways. And back then, we got a lot of money that we were really funding pretty good. A lot of these, organizations. Actually, even more than what's here. Unfortunately, every year, the housing and urban development people seem to find a way to reduce the funding. We've been very close to consistency over the last few years, though, so that's why we're able to estimate. Personally, I think I might even speak for the rest of the council when I say we'd love to give everybody what they're asking for and more. We just are unable to. And I know it's a story you've heard over and over again. In every organization you go to, you hear it. Dennis, the electricity and insurance, I know it's hitting you hard. It's hitting everybody else that are in this business hard also. And so we can see the greater need for more and more funding. I just want to let you know that regardless of what you get funded with, that we absolutely respect and appreciate everybody that's helping out and everything that's being done. And now we'll be taking that up at the next meeting, and we'll make our decisions on what those allocations are. And I just wanted to kind of give you that little discussion so that you know that we appreciate everything. And if somebody gets a little bit more than others or a little bit less this year than others, it's not because somebody's doing a better job or not doing a better job. It's because that's what we can really, give and help out with. So with that, I'm going to open it up to council members. Anyone?
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Bill, I have a question about the home loans.
Yes.
I had someone in Santee that actually had, they're low income, so they would qualify, and they had somewhat of a down payment, I guess, saved up, a good one, I thought. But then I went to the county website just out of curiosity how the process worked, and it seemed really cumbersome. How does this work? I felt defeated, and I don't know how, I can see why it might be only 8 in 2024, and
Well,
the vice mayor, yeah, and the whole county. That's just, it seems like more people would qualify.
frankly, my experience with the first-time homebuyer loan program is only because we have some on the books. So, and occasionally those get people pay them off for one reason or another. And I know that it's, with what incomes are that qualify you and what houses cost and what interest rates are still high, it's really a struggle. But that being said, I mean, I have minimal contact with the county about this program. I speak to them a few times a year, mainly just to get a number count. And so I'm happy to look into it more if you'd like. But I know, just federal money has a lot of strings. So this program is complicated, CDBG is complicated, home is complicated, so I'm sure there's a lot of paperwork they have to fill out. And it's probably
well, what I experienced was just, here's a list of people that the county will work with to sell a home, and I don't know.
Would you like me to chime in?
Yes, please.
All right.
Yeah.
So the bottom line issue is you have to be 80% of the area median income, oftentimes. So area median income, depending upon what part of the county you live in, is a little bit different. It goes by your census tract. So putting that together, along with today's housing prices because of the shortage of housing stock and today's interest rates, because you're still going to get interest rates are what they are. You have to put a significant amount of money down and have no other debt in order to qualify. So most of the people that I've seen qualify for these are also getting a gift from mom, dad, friend, family, something of that nature, and it's significant in order to make this happen. I actually did get one closed last year, and they got $200,000 from mom and dad, plus another $70,000 from the program, in order to buy. I want to say it was a $480,000 condo, and they just qualified because your income has to be only a certain. You can only have a certain amount, and your debt to income ratio. Not only top of that, your debt to income ratio can't push beyond 43% of that gross income with all your debts and the new housing and your HOAs. They're now including insurance premiums that have gone up significantly. So HOAs have gone up significantly, along with water that adds to that as well. It's really difficult. So there was a time that we did do this in-house. We did this in Santee, and we were able to dictate some of our own terms. Maybe it's time to look at that again.
Might be a good job for Brittany.
But I don't know that, given the restraints that you're referring to on federal money, if we alone would have enough to even be able to fund one person in the amount required to be able to make this actually work, without extra funding. I mean, because they give some pretty big grants. It's great if you can fit that box. It's pretty amazing. And yes, then there's minimal amount of institutions that they allow to participate in the program, and each year you have to renew your availability or your ability to do that by taking a class, and it's $250 a person. And with how many again last year in the county?
8.
And you have about 100 people in that class.
Well,
you follow where I'm going. You get where I'm going.
I do.
It's a lot of bureaucracy for.
It is a lot.
It really is. It really is. It's not. I don't think it's what it was intended for. Right. But now other places in the country, it actually works swimmingly, because the disparagement between 100% of area median income and 80% is not that significant, and housing prices hadn't gone up as much as they have here. But it is what it is here, and it's until we're building more housing and we can bring that a little closer this is the way it's going to be.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that really inspiring information. Sorry, I'm just trying to be kind. All right, then.
Yeah.
Did you want more? Okay.
Yeah. Bill, I just can't recall. Why did we not fund Crisis House last year?
They didn't apply.
They didn't. Okay. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
why. I wasn't sure if I thought we gave money to Crisis House in some other form or fashion in the past. Okay. But
They received some CDBG CV funds
okay. Last year.
the year before.
Year before.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Anything, Dustin? Okay, great. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.
I think we do want you to formally continue the hearing.
Okay, you want a motion and a second on that? Okay.
In the hearing, yeah.
I have a motion to continue.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please vote.
First.
Thanks, Sean.
Motion carries unanimously.
For the record, I guess we're supposed to say that was a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Okay, that takes us to item number 9, which is a public hearing. I'm sorry. Continued business, second reading of an ordinance adding Chapter 7.12 to Title 7 of the Santee Municipal Code to prohibit trespass on private property and business premises. Sean.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. On January 22nd, you conducted a first reading of a local ordinance that would create a new requirement related to private trespass in the city of Santee. As part of your introduction and the first reading of that ordinance, you asked for an explanation of how the new ordinance would be enforced. So the presentation tonight and the staff report provides that information. We worked with the sheriff's office and also the code enforcement to make sure that we're all on the same page about how this will be done. So next slide. Just to remind the council of what this purpose and need for the ordinance is, the council has heard from time to time about problems at various businesses in the community where the state law that does allow for enforcement of private trespass to private property, where that law wasn't effective because there wasn't a proper letter authorizing the sheriff to take certain actions on that property. And so there was a little bit of a hole in the legal system that prevented us from addressing a problem that was known to exist in the community. So the purpose of this ordinance is to fill that gap. It doesn't it doesn't supplant state law, but it does supplement it. And basically what it does, and I think what, at least for me, the most important aspect of this is it allows the business owners themselves to tell people that they are not to be on their property anymore, and then that would trigger a process where there can be enforcement. So they won't get the answer from us on the law enforcement side to say, well, we can't really do anything about that. So this would give another tool to hopefully allow this issue to be addressed. I do want to note that this is not a cure-all. It isn't going to solve all the problems that sometimes people encounter. It's not sort of a blanket injunction or some kind of blanket restraining order that's going to just prevent people from accessing property that they're allowed to access. It does require activity, as I'll talk about from the business owners. Each time there is an encounter, will be considered a new event. So I just want to stress that this is an important tool, but it isn't just going to magically address every issue that we face. So next slide. So to get to the heart of really what I think council was asking for last time is how is this going to work? And basically, we've mapped out a process with the sheriff's department to make it clear what was going to happen, and then I think we'll work with the city manager to put out some public information so people can understand what, how they access this and what they need to do and what they can expect if they do this. So basically, though, what it means is that a business owner is going to have to take responsibility to do a couple things. When there is an issue, they need to identify the person who is no longer welcome on their business premises, and they have to ask them to leave. They do need to very clearly document the facts. Obviously, there's a variety of ways to do that with recording, phones, but also, written documentation of it. They need to call the sheriff's office, and every time the person returns, there needs to be a new call because, again, this is not just a blanket. You get warned once and you have to stay away forever. So that's really kind of on the business owner to do. But what can they expect in return for doing that? There should be a response from law enforcement. Obviously, they're not going to necessarily see everything that's occurring, and so sometimes there might be a warning, but if the sheriff's office in their discretion believes that there's a basis for a citation, they can consider issuing a citation, and if there is a citation issued, then that would come to us at the city attorney's office, and if we believe the facts support it, we will file charges, and we will pursue those vigorously. There are a variety of penalties that business owners could expect coming out of this. Typically, with this kind of trespass issue, initially there's some kind of diversion program, and that's valuable because there's usually a stay-away order that's associated with that. So in and of itself, that's an important thing. Obviously, with repeat violations and more extreme circumstances, we can prosecute, and if we're successful in prosecution, it can be charged as a misdemeanor, and so there's ultimately some jail time associated with this. And as part of the process, we've committed on our side to continue to update the business owner so that they know what's happening in the process, and so it doesn't go in a black hole, and they know what's going on. So again, I want to stress that there are some things that the business owner is going to have to do. It's sort of essentially what is generally referred to as a citizen's arrest type of situation, where they're going to have to kind of fill out a form, and unless the sheriff's there and physically sees someone who has been warned, or even while they're there, they have that situation, we're going to rely upon the business owner. But we do think this is a really important aspect to add to the toolbox that we have to address this concern. So next slide. So our recommendation remains to conduct a second reading and adopt the ordinance, and then, as I mentioned, we will continue to work with the sheriff's captain and the city manager, and the kind of the frequently asked question kind of approach we have here. We'll modify that, and we'll put that on the website so that people can be educated about it. I do want to make one final note. As with all of the ordinances, there's a law enforcement specific enforcement option, and then obviously there's code enforcement. This one is almost always going to be a law enforcement situation just because of the nature of the event. But I do want to say that if they're depending on the situation and future funding and resources, it could at least involve code enforcement, but as I said, and as we've talked specifically with the code enforcement folks, this is going to come to the sheriff's office and be enforced primarily by them. So happy to answer any questions, but we do recommend that you conduct a second reading and adopt the ordinance.
Thank you. Any speaker slips?
No, sir.
Thank you. Council comments or questions? Okay. Dustin?
Sean, I just want to clarify what notice means. So is that verbal? Is it signage posted? What does provide notice?
It could be all. So I think a lot of businesses already have signage up, but it needs to be, because there's a presumption that anyone is allowed into a business initially, right? So when that changes because of behavior, because of whatever, there does need to be some kind of
Right, so the business may have a sign that says have a right to refuse service, but is it a no trespassing sign, or is it posted our ordinance and our municipal code number at the business? Is that?
It could be, again, it could be all of the above.
Okay.
Right,
Well,
so, but you
not
don't need to
specific.
have the signage to be able to have it enforced. I think that's the key, right?
Yeah, it is. That's why I want to make it enough
exactly.
specific that they have to have this to make that happen.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think other things that they may want to do would sort of enhance potentially but yeah, you just, as long as there's a communication and it's documented and it's something that the sheriff issues a citation and we can pursue, then it could just be an oral communication.
Councilmember Trotter actually kind of started on what I was going to ask when it comes to notice. Are we going to provide, can we provide examples of notice that can be posted, giving the property, not the leasee, the most coverage possible?
Yes, we can do that as part of our public education, and we can also, work with the sheriff on sort of how we want things documented, because we could be a form that we can provide them so that they can fill it out and that kind of stuff. We're happy to do that.
Hopefully as easy
simply
and
as
rudimentary as
possible.
possible, because you're going to have, oftentimes, it's not necessarily the person signing on the lease as much as it's a manager who's maybe just got out of high school or still is in high school and has to run the shop. It's just this is the reality, right? Let's be honest.
That's what's so funny about it.
Yeah. So yeah,
Want to keep it simple and
as
make it
much as
easy.
possible.
Yes, absolutely.
While still giving our deputies and the business owner as much ability to enforce this as possible. So I understand it's a very fine line and it's a difficult way to walk it, but the more advice you can give and examples that you can provide, I know it would be greatly appreciated by the business community. Second, I just want to commend you for something you just stated. I don't know if anybody caught it, but you did note this is not something that 99% of the time code and compliance is going to be dealing with, but I love the fact that you are thinking in the future of there may be a time where this could get utilized by code and compliance, and it's something that that you're not handcuffing, pun intended, to just our sheriff's deputies, but giving the opportunity for code and compliance to be able to utilize this this part of the Muni Code if and when it becomes available. So thank you very much for continuing to think outside the box as your team consistently does for us, and I just want you to know it's appreciated. Happy with this. We discussed this a lot last time. How are we going to do this? I like the fact, in today's world, let's be honest, every business either has cameras on their business. If they shouldn't, they should. But if not, everybody in there's got a camera on their pocket. And just a little recording of what's there, saved for posterity. If that's acceptable, then I think everybody should be able to live with that. Now it's not just my word, his word, their word, whatever. It's something that's documentable. If we can utilize that, I'm happy with this. Thank you.
Welcome.
By the way, I like that pun. Yeah, and one of the things is Chamber's been keeping an eye on this also, and they want to be part of the education portion of it, I believe, so that they can help with their businesses. A great example that you're talking about, cameras. The incident that happened with the parolee at the Clips, Great Clips, perfect example of how that's going to be an extremely easy parole violation. And my guess is, I don't know, Sean, we're just guessing here, but that probably won't even result in a prolonged prosecution. It'll be probably a revocation of parole, and he'll go back to prison. So, because that's generally how they do it. Why prosecute when you're going to put him in prison anyways, right? So, perfect example. So, thanks for bringing that up. Anyone else? Any questions? Okay.
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
I have a motion. I have a second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Holy
Got ahead of
mackerel.
yourself there. You're hearing voices.
Motion carries unanimously.
I thought your motion's going to die. Okay, let's see. And that's going to take us to item number 10, which is new business, resolution appropriating funds for a feasibility study for the future construction of a temporary fire station and subsequent permanent fire station at Woodland Vista Park. Justin.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. This is for a feasibility study for a fourth fire station that would be located in the northern portion of our city. This has been presented several times as a little bit different iteration of the map. Previous maps did not actually have the calls on it, and so it's hard to see, but all those icons represent the emergency service calls that we provide over a 1-month period, so it's a 30-day period. We respond to approximately 10,000 calls a year. 7,500 of them, so 75% are within our jurisdictional boundaries of Santee. We provide quite a bit of mutual aid, plus we have SLEMSA, so that represents the other 25%. So over a 30-day period, we have quite a few emergency incidents. And as you can see, with our 2 fire station locations and this 4-minute reach analysis, we still have some areas of concern in the city, which is down to the south and up to the north. Now, on December 13th of 2023, City Council awarded a contract to Core Design Services for the design of Station 20. And Station 20 is the permanent fire station at the operations yard. Now, fortunately, I had some good guidance from our engineering department and Steve Miller in particular. And he came up with the idea of, hey, why don't we make sure that we embed an opportunity for us, if we want to use this same company to do the fleet maintenance facility, to also do replacement of Fire Station 4 and emergency operation, and a northern station, a 4th fire station to be in the north of the city. And it was initially a 2-year contract. We have the ability to extend it, I believe, for another 6 years, so a total of 8 years. So what that allows us to do is, if we're happy with Core services, we don't have to go out for another RFP. We could just continue to use them with council appropriating more funds, obviously. And so we have been very happy with Core. We're approximately 75% done with the design of Station 20. They have been incredibly responsive. They're very professional, and they have been helping us to stay on track, if anything. They're professionals at what they do, and it became evident very quickly. And this is going to be a stunning addition to our infrastructure once this station is built. Now, we wanted to make sure that we're able to provide service a lot quicker in the southern portion of our city. And so what this represents is a temporary station that this council also supported the funding for. So we're kind of doing those concurrently. You could see up in this portion right here that the actual building is now there. The living quarters is there. We're still waiting for the hookups, and you should be getting a presentation from me at next council about the apparatus bay construction. But we anticipate that this will be operational and we'll be able to service the public within the next few months. So spring of this year. It's taken longer than I anticipated. I'll be the first to say this is not my area of expertise. We're learning. I'm learning a lot as we're going through this. And if we were to do it again, the next iteration will be a lot smoother. We still have this area in the northern portion of the city that we want to address. And as you can see, with the new blue blob down there, which is the ops center, we have better coverage. We have some redundancy as well. We have a lot of calls in that area of the city. So this makes me happy from emergency management, a mitigation standpoint that we're improving. And the area that now we want to start to focus on is the northern portion of our city, up here. We initially had identified City Hall as a potential location, and we were talking about Building 8. It does present some challenges because it would be a massive remodel. We would still have to bring on site some sort of apparatus bay. Honestly, responding out where there's that preschool/church right next door is not optimal. There's a lot of cross traffic that we'd have to deal with. It could be done, but I was targeting facilities or locations that were owned by the city. And this option became apparent to me, or was presented to me fairly recently. This is the Woodland Vista Park, And in this location up here in the right-hand corner or the northeastern portion of the park is a baseball field that really has not been used for quite some time. And right now, it's just a bunch of dying grass it could be used for other purposes if we have a need. And right now, we have a need. Also, this location, to me, from an emergency response standpoint, is better. I have easy access up to the north on Kerrigan. I could shoot out to the east and hit Magnolia. And it provides a little bit better service down to the southern area. So just think about up here, we're at like pretty much the northernmost portion of the city. Shifting it down a little bit, I'm still able to reach the northern portion of the city very easily within 4 minutes. But again, I'm now able to have a little bit of that overlap of these kind of blobs that you're seeing, which is what we like to see in the emergency service world, right? We want a little bit of redundancy. So the proposal is for the feasibility study, having CORE Design Group come in and do a more robust analysis of that location and tell us, can it fit a permanent fire station? And can it also fit a temporary fire station while the permanent fire station is being built? So we're trying to do a cut and paste, essentially, of what we're doing at the operations yard. Now, if you remember, a couple years ago when I'm giving a presentation and I'm showing you some Photoshop pictures of buildings, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be a lot better, I promise you. They are professionals, and they're going to be able to tell us definitively, will this work? Where should they be located? And I believe it will be a time and money savings in the long run, because we'll now have these plans or the basis of a plan for us to start with and to move forward with. So the recommendation are as follow, which is approving the transfer and appropriation of $37,400 from the general fund reserves to the capital improvement fund, authorizing the city manager to execute an amendment to the professional services agreement, which I mentioned we already have with CORE Design Group for architectural engineering, landscape, architectural and environmental services. And that is for an amount not to exceed $34,000, and then in addition, an additional $3,400 as a contingency amount for any amendments that are necessary. And I'll open up to any questions.
Questions? Go ahead.
All right, so I've got a couple. I'm going to do this in reverse order. How much more would it be for them to give us a determination of whether or not the City Hall versus the Woodland Vista property would be a better location? And then again, doing it in two ways, should there be a Fanita Ranch and should there not be a Fanita Ranch?
I would just have to venture a guess on that one, Councilman McNellis.
Do you follow?
We had a defined scope of services for this site, and so my guess would be that if we were to do that same analysis at another site, it would be similar to the same amount. I'm guessing there's some economy of scale, but I could find that information out for you.
Because I get where you're coming from. It's at Woodland Vista. It would be much easier, especially to do a temporary there because it's just vacant land. I totally understand that. However, I think if at some point there is a Fanita Ranch someday, and I do believe at some point there will be a Fanita Ranch someday, and I'm always looking towards the future, especially when I'm talking about spending our taxpayer dollars, where would that best overlay be? Would it be better spent to have that station now just a little bit further north and on Magnolia, which would be closer to getting into the secondary or third road into Fanita Ranch and providing overlay in that direction versus sort of shorter term thinking of, all right, well, we know we need coverage. We know we need it now. And maybe even thinking, frankly, I don't know how much more I'm adding to the cost because I honestly just don't know, much like yourself. It's not what we do for a living, this part of it. But even if we're talking about a temporary station at Woodland Vista, and then with the mindset that a permanent station goes in at City Hall, so that we have the coverage now. We don't have a Fanita Ranch. We may never have a Fanita Ranch, but I think that is a probability within the next 5 to 10 years, to have something up there that the coverage would be better spent going a little bit further north and thinking in that manner.
You know, Rob, I want to add on to that a little bit, because by identifying this, and we look at what you're calling an overlay for coverage on that, we could do this, and then as we get plans from a Finita Ranch, we could determine where they should actually put their fire station so that it's the perfect overlay, instead of just going on something that maybe they already had at one time. What do you think about that?
I agree with that, but as you pointed out in your diagram, what is it? Slide. I think it's slide number. Crud. The one that has the overlay. Keep going. There we go. I think that's it right there. As you referred to the loving blob.
Now, we are able to do the drive time analysis in-house. This was able to be done with Daniel from our GIS department or our IT department. What is a little bit prohibitive is we cannot do the analysis without existing roads. So I can't try to pontificate on where the roads will be and what that will look like.
We can apply some common sense into what,
Sure.
Once again, that same kind of overlay. We know the area it's going to cover, that theoretically it's going to cover. We know where they anticipate building roads. The road doesn't exist, how long it's going to take to get down it. But the reality still is, if we have an issue, and one of the biggest issues was for Finita Ranch, or obstacles, was fire safety. And having the ability to get fire and safety to and from the facility. So having something a little closer only serves the purpose of helping that challenge a little bit more.
And I appreciate the forward planning. I'm trying to address a multi-decade problem, and the problem that exists right now,
yes,
I have a solution for.
So once again, thinking in the term of that temporary site, I absolutely totally understand why Woodland Vista is absolutely perfect for that. It's flat, it's ready, it's usable, it's accessible.
Costs less.
That would definitely cost less because we're not tearing down buildings and doing all that kind of stuff. But long term, I would like to know what that differential would be and what the overall better coverage may be looking into the future. And could that actually help with the plan for providing that fire safety to a future development?
Sure, we could absolutely have that conversation.
That's all I'm asking.
I just want to be clear about, I guess, what the ask is. Are we asking for them then to do what is the feasibility study of City Hall as well as Woodland Vista, and can it be done?
And I really would we'd need to know if they can even quantify if that would provide any better coverage to a future development in a place like something called Finita Ranch. They may not be able to. They may tell you, sorry, because there's no roads there, we can't do it. But
I should clarify what they do. They are provide architectural services, and they build fire stations. They do not tell you where my fire station should go.
Okay.
And so that's what my job is based upon what our needs are in our city existing, some of the projections.
That's what I'm tasking you to do then, to find a way, if you can, at least give it your college effort. If you come back to us and say, there's absolutely no way I can quantify this, it's just the technology doesn't exist for me to be able to do this reasonably and be able to defend it from my position, I'll give you that latitude, but I would like to see that the efforts made to really think about this before we pull the trigger on putting something someplace and then 10 years from now go, gosh, had we just moved it 3/4 of a mile up the road, it would have actually served the overall area better, because now we could have more overlay into that Finita Ranch project, which would help provide that coverage that they'd been looking for in the future. Does that make sense? Sort of?
It does.
You're just trying to wrap your brain around how in the heck can I actually do this now?
No, I mean, I'm just being candid with you that the need exists to the existing infrastructure. When you build a new community, and I'll use like a San Alejo Hills as an example, I'm familiar with it. Those new communities don't generate calls to the same level that the older community does. And so the greater need, in my expert opinion, is in this area and down to the south as of right now. But I get what you're asking, and I'll do whatever is asked of me.
Vice Mayor, if council likes, if there's a similar feeling on the rest of the council for efforts to move this project forward, you could approve this tonight, or you could say, let's approve it to a higher dollar value, not to exceed X, and staff can take it back to core and say, hey, can you do a feasibility study for Woodland Vista and also show us what would it be at City Hall? And give us a top amount. If we think it's double, whatever that might be. I know Heather's probably having a heart attack over there with the general fund costs, but if that's what council wants, we could certainly do that, so we don't have to delay and go back to them and ask them what would the cost be and then bring it back here to council again, because that's really kind of what we're looking at. You could speed it up by about a month if you gave us a maximum amount. It's really up to council's decision, but that would be an option for you.
Okay. Any other comments on that or questions?
Laura has one.
Laura?
Oh, do you have one? Ron?
Yeah, mine's gonna be real easy. I agree with Councilman or Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
I apologize. It's gonna take me a while. About October, man, I'll be ready. I've never liked City Hall. I just don't think it's gonna be feasible. So I like the idea that we're looking at it, but the reality is this is a good site. My biggest concern when I saw it is, oh God, the neighbor's gonna hate us. So I think we should be having a long discussion with a few of the neighbors there, make sure that they are okay with that. But because somebody starts shooting a alarm off at 3 a.m, and I live next door to them, I'm not going to be a happy camper. So that's just a thought. So I'd like to see maybe 1,000 people in the neighborhood, or 500 at least, be notified and discussed. I know there's that apartment building right next door to it, and they could be contacted too. But I just don't. The whole City Hall thing to me is unrealistic. It always has been. So I like the idea. I think we should do it, and I will. But I do like what the Vice Mayor said about moving the looking at both.
So I'm not sure. I have two questions, but this conversation led me in a different direction. So I'm not sure for the reasons that you originally said about City Hall and turn radius that it's a great location anyway. And I wouldn't like to spend money on that, at least, I don't know, $35,000 more on something that I don't think's going to fundamentally work. My limited experience in construction at Santee Lakes, it was more cost effective to tear down a building than retrofit one. And so I just think it would be more expensive to do the retrofitting needed here for Building 8. I think that's what we were talking about. Well, I mean, and I understand that we would lose that building, but at the same time, we're also going to be building a community center, so those services would go to the community center. So that's not really the issue for me. It's just, does it even fit there? It might cost a lot more money to retrofit in a location that we're not really even sure of. And as you mentioned, you are definitely sure of the need of the facilities in this location. So I'm definitely in favor of, supporting what's in front of us today and the spend in front of us today. Perhaps it's a conversation that staff can have with the people that do this work. Did you say CORE? Is that what you said? CORE. Without spending any money, you can ask and then come back to us and say, yep, this, you know what, they said we should look at it. Of course they want money, but you know what I mean, reasonably. And then my original question, you said this really doesn't have too much to do with the topic, except you brought it up. 25% of the calls are mutual aid, and I'm assuming those are most medical. Where when you're doing mutual aid, where do you typically go?
So if you look at our boundaries right here, there's actually some locations that we are closer to than our neighbors, even though the neighbors own that land. And we have some of these areas, southern portion where we're butt up against El Cajon. We have them definitely to our west where we butt up against San Diego. And so because of automatic boundary drops, we go right outside of our boundaries quite a bit. And then we also have SLEMSA as our total service area. And so technically that's considered mutual aid for us, even if we go to SLEMSA or if we go to, let's say like the Bradley corridor, that is Bostonia area. So we're pretty close to it. We service it with our medic units, but not necessarily our fire apparatus, but the way they come up, they're still show outside of Santee's boundaries. So a lot of them are very, very close by.
Just curious question. Okay, thank you.
Dustin?
Yeah. Chief, so there was a question obviously about location, and I know you've been looking obviously at city-owned property because that's what we have, and optimally you can place it right here, it'd be the best location, right? If you had your magic wand and all that stuff, right? So I always agree we should always be looking at all the options, and again, what is the best for the city. So this particular location, the challenge is being right there in Kerrigan, the access in and out, you see any challenges there? And then you didn't talk about staffing. How would we staff a temporary station in that location? Some things that came into my head when I'm talking.
This accessibility right here, if you look at this, and I'm not a expert at like circulation, but what is beneficial about this is you see we have Kerrigan Court, and then you have the access point to Woodland Vista, right? There is not a ton of cross traffic coming out of there. Now, imagine at Station 4 or even at Station 5, you're going out onto a pretty busy area. So Station 4, you're going down Cottonwood, and then you have to hit that cross-section, right, of Mission Gorge and Cottonwood. That's a busy, busy intersection. And then coming out of Station 5, right onto Fina Parkway, that's a pretty busy intersection, and you're coming straight out onto it. So if you look at this little elbow right here, I have clear line of sight in two directions, and it's not a very busy intersection. There's also no speed bumps. If you go down to the south, there's speed bumps. So the way that we operate is we don't just throw on our lights and sirens like the second we're leaving the station. We have a pragmatic approach. If we're in some of these surface streets, we exit, and then as we approach, if you could see like the Magnolia Avenue, that's when we would light it up, we say. That's when we would turn on the siren if we notice that there's significant cross traffic. So safety of my personnel, exiting the station, let's just say 10, 20 times a day, to me, I love this site because it's safe for them. They're able to get in and out pretty easily, as opposed to some of the other locations. I'm sorry, the second part of your question?
Staffing.
Oh, staffing. What we have done a pretty good job of in the last few years is giving ourselves some flexibility with our response apparatus. We have a Type 6 now. We have a squad. We have a brand new squad that we just took possession of. We just took possession of a brush rig. So we have some options. Now at Station 4, I have 13 personnel in that station every day. It's too many. It is too many, and that's what is accelerating the degradation of that station. We've had to like put a bunch of extra sectionals in for beds, and you've heard me say this before. I don't have any more bays. I don't have any more beds. So short answer to your question is I have the ability right now to move existing resources without adding resources. Now I want to be very clear though that we do want to add resources at some times. I do want to add personnel. I get it that there's a finite amount of funds, So the long game would be to add personnel, but if you gave me a fire station in this location today, I could put a company in there that would not include any additional staffing.
Well, I think the degradation of Station 4 is happening long before you put 13 people there, to be quite frank, you know.
This
but
is true.
This section of the city and the southern section of the city, we've talked ad nauseum. These are two obviously underserved areas. We've known it even before we did the standard of coverage service study, and before you even, you know, really went down this road the last couple of years of trying to improve our public safety here. We've known this, so I mean, I'm in favor of any location, again, knowing that what the long-term game is. So this is a temporary station. I think we should move forward and, you know, get the feasibility done on it, number one. But truly, hopefully you learned, you know, from the Station 20 temp stuff that we can make this happen a little faster than a year and whatever it was.
Yeah, I'll probably be seeking PTSD treatment for the Station 20 stuff for quite some time. It's a learning experience, to say the least.
Make a note of that, Rita, on the job injury. You know what? I do want to clarify something, though. This item is two-part. One is dealing with the temporary fire station down on Via Zapador, and the other is for this Woodland Glista Park as a permanent. So we shouldn't be classifying this location as a permanent unless I missed something.
I'm sorry, I probably was not clear, Mr. Mayor, but this is for both. This is to do an assessment on this site of a temporary with the long-term lens of eventually being a permanent site. So it's for both.
Okay, so essentially what we would do is take and if we built a permanent down there on the op site, then what we do is take all that infrastructure and move it to this site at a later time. So it's not like it's going to happen at the same time, is it? Well, that's not what I'm hearing.
Chief, I believe what I'm hearing is that we're talking about doing a feasibility study and putting a temporary station as soon as possible in this location with the caveat of building a new station next to the temporary station so it can run congruently. It can operate while
That's correct.
It's similar to what's happening at Station 20.
That's correct. And the realistic timeline, if we were to do the feasibility study and they said yes, that this will accommodate what you're looking for, that will then trigger, and Sandy could probably, interject here, is that would then trigger the initial planning phase of getting the environmental done, which includes some form of noise mitigation and also the outreach to all the community members and making sure that we're going to be servicing the needs of them and not. You want to speak up to that? Like how much time you think that would take?
Well, I think that's one of the things that Corps is going to estimate as they do the feasibility analysis is what level of environmental review they think it's going to take, the timing and the cost. So when they come back to the council with the study, they'll say, we expect it's going to be this, it's going to be that. This is kind of the existing condition.
So we'd have 2 temporary fire stations. It works.
There would be 2 temporary fire stations. Now, if by some miracle we are able to build the permanent Station 20 in the amount of time that we cleared all these other hurdles and were able to put a temporary station here, then we absolutely could put, that's on a trailer already, we would just tow the temporary station from that location to this location. But I don't see that happening right now.
But there's a third nuance. And again, there's a lot of hypotheticals here.
That might be where I'm going.
If we're able to rebuild Station 4, we need somewhere to put all the staff in the meantime for that one too.
Well, where my thought on this, okay, is that if this is an ideal spot for a fire station, why don't we look at that as building what's going to take to build a permanent fire station there? Because if even though it's not the most efficient working out of 4 and 5, okay, by the time we get this, if we got this built, we're still going to work the same as we always have out of 4 and 5. So why not look at it as a permanent and not even putting it temporary? Because now we're spending a lot of money to do both.
I'm looking at what is going to provide the best, the quickest service to this community. And a temporary station will take significantly less time to get up and running versus a permanent station. And I'm just using our experience right now that we awarded CORE the design funds in December of 2023, correct? And we're going to see the plans finished this spring to summer, so 18 months. And if they were then start the building process, and by the way, we did not have to do as comprehensive an environmental review that we anticipate for this one, so that will elongate the time as well. And then the building timeline, Councilmember Trotter could probably speak to this. I think 18 months to 2 years would be minimum timeline. So I'm just trying to service the community as quickly as possible. And that would be a temporary station with the planning for a permanent station there eventually.
I think we have time to work on that anyway.
Well, I guess my other question would be, where's the money coming from to build that temporary station?
Mr. Mayor, that's a challenge for us. I think that's part of the reason we want to look at the temporary station, because that's a little bit easier to fund than a full fire station, a permanent. And understanding your concerns about wanting to look at permanent, that is a part of this feasibility study, is to look at both a temporary and a permanent. So we're not cutting off our nose to spite our face, but we're trying to move as much forward as quickly as possible. If you recall, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but during some of our presentations earlier in the year, we have double staffed at Station 5 as well. So we have staff that we can move over very quickly to a temporary location, just like we're doing down at the Ops Yard. We're trying to provide opportunities to service the largest portion of our community as quickly as possible for the least amount of cost, but leaving the option open for those permanent stations that really are going to be the long-term goal.
Okay, I get all that. Can you remind me about what the cost is for that temporary fire station down in the Ops Yard?
When it's all said and done, it's going to be close to $2 million.
Okay, so now we have to come up with another $2 million minimum, depending on what the new cost is. And would that take, like you said, maybe a couple years before that got started?
Our hope would be a little bit less than that, but depending on how fast the feasibility study and them telling us what the scope will likely be for the environmental planning. And then we would likely find somebody to do the design build and do the plan so it goes a little bit quicker. And that's why I said learning now, knowing now, as opposed to trying to piecemeal it the way we did. We would procure one person to do the design and the actual construction.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah.
So another thing to just pop back in my head, we also have a minimum per square foot or per acre per square foot or something like that per capita of park space requirements that we have to meet. So this would be taking away some of that park space at the same time. That combined with the fact that Councilmember Hall was accurate in stating that, yeah, we're going to have a lot more people lose their mind and in this section here than there would be at the City Hall site. So just another reason I think the City Hall site, I still think is a better overall site long term. If we were to do something as a short term in this, would that have to come out of our parks, available park space?
The short answer.
Called it a short term answer.
The short answer, Vice Mayor, is we're looking at all of these issues. I mean, these things are moving quickly, appropriately, because there's a big need for it.
Totally, and I appreciate that.
The issues you've just identified are the issues of concern for the City Attorney's Office that we're working on and will be kind of part of the analysis. And we're going to work hard to make sure, if this is what the city needs, we'll try to make it happen. But there are some, issues like you've identified that need to be addressed.
Well, that will be in the study, though, right?
Well,
most likely.
I mean, we're going to provide an opinion as to what we're going to have to look at the original source of this park, where it came from, because my understanding is it was part of the county before incorporation. It was already a park. So we're going to have to look at those issues. And then specifically, the issue you're raising is what does it mean if are we actually taking parkland out? Do we need to replace it somewhere? How all those things work out. But I mean, we're going to look at all those issues, and we'll look at them very quickly so that you don't invest a bunch of money if there's a bigger problem than we think there might be, which we don't think there is right now. But again, you're hitting on the correct issues. I just don't have answers for you right now.
And I appreciate that, but that's kind of more to my point in that I don't want to put the cart before the horse here. Like, why are we spending money on this? We know without a doubt, like this is my district. It's the worst served section of Santee when it comes to fire safety. Trust me, I want to get something done. I want to get it done sooner rather than later. But that doesn't mean that we throw good money after bad. So with that in mind, I'd like to know the answers to that question, because that alone could be something that kills the deal. Why? We've already got you on retainer.
Could be. I guess my thought on this is that there's nothing preventing you from going ahead with this action tonight just to keep this rolling forward. We can do our work, and the chief can. We don't have to necessarily give go ahead on some of these funds being spent until we have that answer.
So appropriating funds.
Well, I mean, so like for example, if you took the action that's recommended tonight, the chief doesn't have to say start tomorrow, right? So we can answer that threshold question sooner rather than later, and we would encourage it and work with the chief not to have a big expense incurred if we identify a problem. And then we would come back to you and talk to you about that. So I still think you can move forward tonight. That's why I haven't said anything in advance. But there are, those issues we're going to look at, and it will be part of the initial analysis, because if we find something significant, which we don't anticipate, but if we did, it would be silly to spend money on this investigation if we are of the opinion that you can't do it.
Yeah.
Right? So, but we'll just do that in advance. I think you can still go forward with this if you wish to.
And our community services director has already started looking into those issues as well. So we understand, and those are big issues for us. We
And
understand.
it is twofold. It's one, okay, if we take it out on a temporary basis because it's a temporary station, do we have to pull that from our numbers? Then we have to identify and maybe even potentially build a new park someplace else that we don't own the land already on. Or two, if that isn't the case, and we get to save it, all right, that makes sense. That makes even more sense to have this as a temporary location while we still explore maybe another alternate. But that still brings me back to why I think we should still be exploring an alternate location, at least getting the information on it. And but I agree with the chief wholeheartedly in regards to we need something now, and this is I understand why this looks like a great location for you. I even understand your premise of ingress and egress for your safety of your team, but I also understand for 40 years now, there's never been a stop sign or a signal there, and I know that area very well. I know how people drive on it, and coming in and out of there, you don't break 40-year habits overnight. Getting in and out of there may be a little more hectic than you might anticipate. I know what it looks like on a map, but I also know what the reality is, especially in the evenings, versus on Magnolia, which is 2 lanes each direction coming out of there. So I get it, but that's why I just want the information. And I know I'm maybe kicking this can a little bit further down the road, but I implore you to give me a little leverage on that, and know that it's not because I don't believe in something being done here. It's because I want to see our money spent the best that it possibly can for our long-term solution, not just a temporary thing.
Thanks. Ron?
Okay, this is just a quick question. I probably already know the answer, but I see I'm a straight line person, which is part of my problem, and I see this line going into the parking lot of the apartment building. We don't have to eat that property, do we?
This is my deficiencies with map drawing.
No, and I figured that. It freaked me out when I saw it, and I thought, I don't want to buy a parking lot. so-
I try, believe it or not, that's like my 5th attempt or 6th attempt, and they just weren't getting better.
I'll buy you a little. So I apologize, but that's it. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second.
Hold on, I'm sorry. So what exactly are we voting on then?
Staff recommendation with the understanding from me is that the issue with legal gets, nothing spent until the issue with legal is determined for park land. And also, if we need to spend or want to spend more money on what you have suggested, which is here, bring it back and we can, add another chunk of money for that as well.
So this is for the temporary.
Temporary, just splitting it up. Well, we can split up your
Well, I
idea,
know,
too.
it's staff recommendation.
Staff,
And that's and permanent. Yeah, and that's where I have the problem. If we talk about the study, I mean, I'm fine with doing the study. I'm sorry, I'm fine with doing the study for the permanent, but I also want to add in if.
Correct, and that part I was suggesting that they could bring back. If,
That works.
if, they have all their discussions about it.
Does that get us where I'm trying to go, Sean?
I think so. I mean, I think it.
Well, we can withdraw ours, and you can, if you want to make the
Well,
motion.
but I understood that there was direction for the chief to do a distance, that what he would normally do, the best he can, with the understanding of looking at that, the city hall site, what benefit that might bring in terms of not the feasibility of a station there, but just the response times and things like that. That was previous direction of at least the vice mayor. And then that would be kind of part of what might be brought back, depending upon what legal fines and what other issues there are. So I think it does, Vice Mayor. I mean, I think it accommodates at least the concerns that I've heard, doesn't lock the council into anything specifically, and gives you options and gives staffs options to bring back more information to you, depending upon what we find at the initial level of analysis.
So, like I stated before, so basically what our recommendation is, we're, at this moment at least, we're appropriating these funds for this mission, but not necessarily spending these funds before you've done your part and we have an opportunity to come back and talk further about permanent structure. Does that make sense?
Definitely, I guess the only
I
question
do-
I have,
I
the
wanna-
permanent structure, I think, is maybe with the fire chief. My part of it is accommodated by what you just said and the motion.
And things are going to have to come back eventually anyways to get the report on all this. And we can give direction then, but if we don't do this tonight, then it's just going to delay.
No, I
longer.
totally, once again, totally fine spending the money to talk about this part first, but if there is, especially if there is any economy of scale on also researching the other site, this other site, I'd like to know that and know what that would be. Just more information. I get it. I don't want to spend a penny more than we have to, but the reality is, if it ends up long-term being a better site for us, if it's $25,000 more, that may save us tens of thousands, if not millions of dollars in the future for having done the right thing, seeing that, okay, in the future with Fanita Ranch maybe coming in or other projects going up behind the Heights, because there's houses proposed back there still. Like that, all that together makes more sense to be a little bit further north, and we have better coverage in future development. So I'd like to know that. So I am fine with this now. We're just all on the same page. I got an affirmative head shake from the chief. I feel
Affirmative.
comfortable with that. All right.
Yeah, one thing I do have to address, though, is because Ron made a comment about withdrawing the motion, and just to let you know, well, regardless, I just want to make it clear that once a motion and a second's been made, you cannot withdraw it because it belongs to the people, and it has to be voted on unless there's an amendment. So we're going to go ahead with the original motion, and please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for the discussion, guys.
Sure. Item number 11 is consideration of a resolution canceling a regular city council meeting in the summer months of July or August. James.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. This item is the annual consideration for the cancellation of a summer meeting. Staff has identified the dates of July 9th, July 23rd, or August 13th as the best dates to consider for a summer meeting cancellation. If council is interested by canceling either the July 23rd or August 13th meeting, it would give the greatest length of time between meetings, as there is a fifth Wednesday at the end of July. Staff would ask council to consider if this is something that they would like to do this year, and if so, identify a date and adopt a resolution canceling one of the summer meetings. Staff is available for questions.
Any speaker slips?
No, sir.
Okay. Council, do you have any preferences?
One of us does. Yes. July 23rd is my preference. And I can explain further if needed, or...
Please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, August 13th is closer to when school starts, so I think more families like to take a July. There's 5 weeks, of course, as he said, and that's why July makes more sense to me.
But see, MTS cancels in August, so if I had to have
You guys are killing me.
Yeah, the August one does provide 5 weeks without a meeting.
So does July 23rd. Right?
It's the same either way.
Okay, yeah.
I don't care. So I'll
Actually, you know what? And I can't believe I haven't said this before, but have we ever done a freaking poll of our own staff of what they would prefer? I mean, seriously.
Well, one of them wants both of them.
Well, make it simple.
Another one wants 3 of them. So.
Go down the line.
All right. I hear the city manager say the 23rd. I have, we hear Councilmember Koval say the 23rd. It doesn't phase me one direction or the other, so.
That's a motion for the 23rd?
I will make a motion for the 23rd.
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? I hope not.
How
Okay.
about September?
You go ahead and take it off.
But in all sincerity, if there's a little survey they can go out next year of, I mean, it's not that difficult to do.
We can absolutely do that, Councilmember.
Yeah. And see if there's a consensus on one of those 3 dates. Not everybody's going to agree, obviously, on one date. That's not going to happen. But if we get a majority consensus, makes it easier for us. I mean, we're going to be around no matter what. So, yeah.
I think as part of the motion, we should have the city clerk assign that task next year.
He's already accepted the challenge.
All right, please vote.
Councilmember Trotter, would you lock in your vote?
Vote first before I can lock it in.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, takes us to item number 12. I mean, we already did that. I'm not going to go down that road again.
You did 11.
Oh, they're pretty close to the same thing, if you ask me. Because everybody wants time off. So that's a proposal to adopt the city holiday closure for 2025 and future years. Marlene.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council. In November, the City Council approved an opportunity for a holiday closure for some additional days above and beyond the specific holidays that the city has recognized in the past. And next slide, please. At that November council meeting, there was a lot of discussion about what days would be taken off and how those would fall. We also presented to the City Council for your consideration that 11 other cities in the county of San Diego do this type of closure in different ways, and 5 cities do not. It was approved as a pilot program and for a report to come back to council so that you could see what was done and what impact, if any, had on our operations and our local community. Next slide. As a part of the closure, once it was approved, staff went through each department, figured out what kinds of things were going to be impacted by having the office spaces closed, and looked at those essential services. Staff looked at how would we provide information on the closure to make sure that our community members, stakeholders knew about it and would have the least amount of impact. And staff also made every attempt to make sure that if there was any kind of issue from an urgency opportunity, that there would be staff on standby to be able to handle those concerns. The biggest part that we dealt with before the closure was to make sure that information was provided publicly on the city website, on all of our social media. Staff included a line about it on all of their email signature blocks. There was discussions for many of our staff in the development services areas of engineering and planning and building to make sure that all of those development projects knew about what was going on and had a chance to pre-schedule activities before or after the closure so it wouldn't slow up the projects. Next slide, please. From that perspective, after the closure, based on your direction to have a report brought back, I asked all the department heads to provide a brief report to me on what happened for their departments, what impacts they saw, what occurred, what we needed to do better, what we needed to continue with, in order to bring back to the council what happened during that week and a half period. In that review, we took a look and found that there was no real major impacts, if you would, to our services to our community because of the dramatic type of information that was spread in advance of the closure. City staff did remain on standby for urgent needs, and we'll get into how much that was utilized. From an overall perspective from our staff, I can tell you that having the opportunity to take off during the holiday season and not have to compete with your coworkers on who gets to take off this year and who doesn't get to take off this year, and who gets to travel and who doesn't get to travel because you don't get the time off, trying to figure out how many days of vacation people have, et cetera, and the opportunity to come back to work refreshed without challenging their coworkers was very much appreciated. Next slide. In a quick review, this talks about the amount of services that were requested through with My Santee CA app. There were a total of 58 service requests that were put in, but I will remind you that 10 of them were duplicates. So we got a total of reality 48. That number was 37% lower and fewer in daily requests than we experienced the rest of the year. And this is a breakdown of what was called in, what was asked. None of those are different than what we deal with on a daily basis. So we didn't see anything major that came through on the service requests that was different. And in fact, the usage of the app was reduced from our normal operations. Next slide. On a department by department basis, if you'll note, most of the internal administrative types of department offices, anything that needed to be taken care of was followed up immediately on Monday, January 3rd, when staff returned. From the manager's office, we had 3 voicemails on the main phone. There was nothing that needed to be followed up on immediately that was taken care of on the 3rd. There were 3 general info emails with nothing that needed an immediate attention. City clerk's office, there were no voicemails to the clerk's office. There were 4 emails. 3 of them related to Public Records Act requests, and 1 was a passport appointment that could be scheduled following the closure. In finance, I will note that many of our finance staff came in during the closure to perform essential functions such as, we all appreciate issuing payroll, but of course handling accounts payable and some other actions that needed to be caught up on in our finance department. I personally had a chance to talk to several of the staff, and even though they didn't get to have a chance to take all those days off, they had really a great appreciation for the fact that they could come in and do their tasks during a specified time frame and then go home. They didn't need to stay at the office the entire day unless there was a priority that needed to be accomplished. From the Human Resources Department, there were 3 voicemails with no urgent matters that were followed up on the 3rd. Next slide. Obviously, planning, building, engineering, community services, these are very busy departments. So the impacts in planning and building, there were 32 permit applications that were received through Intergov and were followed up on immediately on January the 3rd. There were 57 inspections that took place during our closure by the city's contractor, Interwest. And even though we had asked all of the development projects to call in advance to schedule their inspections so we could get our contract inspector to go out and do that, we had an additional 15 that called in, and Interwest was able to add those to the schedule. So nobody got delayed in their inspection schedule. In engineering, Intergov, of course, continued to move forward, and as we stated earlier, those were all taken care of on January the 3rd. Dig Alert still had to happen, but there was no urgent matters. Staff did have to check the daily log to make sure there were no major issues that needed to come in or urgent requests, and that was done. Addressing issues with our Popeyes restaurant that wanted to move forward, and also with the delivery, as the chief outlined earlier, the delivery of our temporary living space down at the new temporary fire station at the yard. That was done during the closure. Staff came in, took care of those issues. We did have our engineering department actually had staff come in and go down to Popeyes, have meetings on site. They also had meetings here at City Hall with the developer on a last-minute sort of urgent requested basis, so we appreciate them coming in. Although they were not required to, they did so because they caught the urgency that was requested from the developer of the Popeyes restaurant. In community services, there were 2 voicemails, no urgent matters. Again, those were followed up on January 3rd. 4 park patrol calls. We do have a call-in line for people that have reservations, and so there were no urgent matters, but we did have staff monitoring that patrol call line. And if there were questions about is my park space ready, can I still come in for my reservation, those were answered by one of our staff in the recreation division on an immediate basis when the call came in. 2 duty calls came into the public services division. Only one of those required an urgent response, and staff did that. In addition to which, I'll note that former President Jimmy Carter passed away during the holiday closure period, and there was a obviously federal order to lower flags in recognition of that passing, and staff did come in and take care of that throughout the city on all of our public flags. Emergency services, there was no interruption. This did not affect our fire department, other than the administrative office was closed, but 911 services, anything else from an emergency approach, there was no impact there at all. Next slide. If the council would consider doing this again in the future, we would propose to look at the calendar year for 2025. Again, there's a couple of Fridays here that kind of hang out in the middle of the holiday season. You've got half staff in. A lot of people don't come in on a Friday anyway from the public, just because there's a lot of activity, especially during the holiday season, and 3 full days, the 29th, 30th, and 31st. If we were to move forward, as your city manager, I would request that we would take a look at the 26th through the 1st of January, which, through the 2nd of January, because it's just a holiday, and then a single Friday. Moving on to the next slide. Opposite of that, in calendar year 2026, if this were to proceed, I would not recommend 5 days, I'd recommend 4. We don't need 5 days there. There's 4 days between those holidays, and that would handle travel plans or whatnot for most of our employees. So as a calendar flows, it could be 4 days, it could be 5, in an attempt to make it the most reasonable amount of time frame so people could travel or do what they needed to. But I don't see any time frame where it would be any more than that, just because Christmas and New Year's are exactly 1 week apart. It's just going to depend on how they fall in the schedule. Next slide, please. The pilot program, in our opinion, on staff level was very successful, was implemented with very minimal impacts on our service level. As I told you when you approved the pilot, it was very important to me as your manager to make sure that we didn't have a lot of complaints, and I'm happy to say that we did not. I did have a staff person from the manager's office working from home on a daily basis, check all of our social media and the city website and the app to make sure that if there was anything that was urgent or there were a lot of complaints going on out there, that we were able to know about that and try to handle those. So preparation and communication efforts played a key role in being able to make sure the public was informed and had the least amount of impact possible on them. Next slide. Again, if council would consider doing this on a regular basis, it gives us a much longer lead time to get that information out rather than just 1 month. So the concept would be here that on an annual basis, we would solidify those closure dates as early as possible in the calendar year. For 2025, we would recommend the 3 regular approved holiday days that are already on the staffing benefit calendar, and then there would be the potential of 5 additional days, the same as this calendar year. But again, calendar year 2026 itself would be completely different because the days fall on different days of the week. So I'm free to answer any questions. If you have questions specifically of staff and their departments, we're all here to answer your questions. We do appreciate any type of support that council would give to this particular item, and we appreciate the opportunity to have it as a pilot program this year.
Great, thank you. I'm only going to ask one question up front, and it comes down to what Vice Mayor was saying. Hey, James, did you do any Survey Monkeys to see how everybody else felt about this that are employees? All right, just kidding. Sorry about that. Do you want to go first, or who wants to go first? Okay, Rob?
I appreciate the report, and I am in favor of moving this forward for 25-26, but I would also like to have a very similar report, first meeting in February each of those years, so that we can monitor it and make sure things are staying status quo, that they're not escalating, just so we keep our thumb on the pulse a little bit. I understand, while doing that, understanding that once we set this, people are in their minds, they're going to think, okay, we're off at this time of the year, so it may take a year after before we can make any correction to that. I'm cognizant of that going into it, but I still want the report to know, to be able to watch any corrections. And I'd actually like in the next one that we have maybe in fiscal year 24, 25, we had this many calls. Then 25, 26, we had this many. Yeah. Just so we can see it side by side and know, all right, things are staying pretty status quo. Population hasn't grown that much. Blah, blah, blah. That's it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
And my only comment was to include the data in the actual staff report, and I wouldn't have follow-up questions if you do that, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Ron?
I thought we should make the vice mayor on call for any calls that come up.
To be quite honest.
You know that would be you in the next cycle, right?
I'll be changing that next year.
He accepts.
Not a problem.
Is that an amendment?
Motion to approve. Motion to approve.
Didn't you just make that motion? Sure. Have a second. And just to let you know that I was called out on that holiday also to address things, so I wasn't going to roll that way, but yeah. So and thanks to staff for doing what they did to help out over there. So now it's open, and all we do is put the pens to them to make sure everything gets done. So I have a motion. I second. Please vote. You lock in that vote there, Dustin?
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, council. I know your staff appreciates it.
Thanks. Oh, by the way, did anybody that participated in that not like it? All right, then. That goes to non-agenda public comment. Speaker slips.
One speaker, Dean Velasco.
Oh, brother. I was hoping you heard that.
And I'm still going to say honorable mayor and vice mayor and city council and staff. My name is Dean Velasco. I am the chair of the Santee Parks and Rec Committee. Although I'm not speaking on behalf of them tonight, I just wanted to give some context to my comments. Going back to one of the items earlier about the park, the Woodland Vista Park, we actually spent a lot of money on that park recently and redid it and made it a multi-use park. And it's been integrated into our master schedule of all of our youth sports teams here. So it's not a dead park. It was for quite some time, but recently we went through and spent some money and some effort to get it into the assets that we have. So I just wanted to bring that up. And I wanted to say thank you to the vice mayor talking about, if we lose some park space, how permanent is that? And can we recover it somewhere else? And I do know that there's talks over the last few years, actually going back 4 or 5 years, the end of Mast, we have a an area there that we own that we could very easily turn into kind of a linear park and call it park space. So if we did perhaps lose some space, I don't think that space would work as a multi-use space that we have at Woodland Vista, but we can recover some park space if we find out that we're losing it. That's just a thought I had. And two other comments. One would be that would be a great disc golf park. That's a personal thing, because we don't need that much space. The other thing, just a comment on the space over at Woodland Vista, as well as for a permanent and a temporary and or a permanent space for a fire station. I'm all for fire, and I know we need a fire station. But just as a citizen and someone who drives down that space, because we were looking at it a lot when we're going to fix it up, and that Kerrigan Street, I think it's Kerrigan. I'm sure somebody much smarter than I in the planning department or in your folks you're going to pay a lot of money to. That street's a very, very thin street with parking on both sides. So something needs to be taken into consideration of that, because your fire trucks are not small, and that was just an observation because I used to do planning for spaces like this, not fire stations, but other ones. So that to me, just looking at it and looking at this parking on both sides, that's a skinny street. So those are the things I wanted to talk about. But Woodland Vista Park is used by a lot of youth sports, and I thank you guys for your time.
No further speakers.
All right, then. That's going to take us to city council reports. Let's start. You know what? Wait, I'm going to start over here on the right for a change,
Nothing for me, Mr. Mayor.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
The only thing I have is next week I'm going to be up in Rancho Cucamonga for a League California Cities Board of Directors meeting. That'd be fun up there. Anything, Laura?
I yield my time to Laura.
Thank you. So I enjoy driving around Santee, and it just seems like there's more than I've usually seen in the past. People celebrating the Chinese New Year. It is the year of the snake, and people born in the year of the snake are considered intelligent, wise, mysterious, and charming. They are known for their deep thinking, intuition, and strong determination. I say that because this charming lady was born in the year of the snake as well. Happens once every 12 years, so just thought I would share.
I think I was born the year of the rat.
Who was? Were you?
I think I'm monkey.
Monkey, rat?
Gee, that explains a whole lot.
Justin, what are you? No, you're not. There's no such thing. I'm going to look it up.
Well, we certainly went off target there for a minute, but that's part of the fun of having these council meetings, I guess. City manager.
Well, following that one up, speaking of animals, we have Fido Fest coming up. Is that a good segue? So Fido Fest coming up February 22nd. We had our chair of Spark and our vice chair of Spark is out there. That's going to be a great event. It's going to be held at Town Center Community Park, 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And we just want to make sure that everybody knows, come on out. It's going to be a great time. Coincidentally, tomorrow, rain or shine, is our Heroes Golf Tournament over at Carlton Oaks Golf Course. It's a little late to sign up now, and I'm not sure that the weather's going to cooperate with everything, but the event is going to go off, rain or shine, and our military unit, HMH 462, thank you. They really do appreciate it. They were in working with our staff today on that event, and we're very much looking forward to supporting them. And by the way, Friday's Valentine's Day. Make sure you get your flowers, your chocolates, and all the other fun stuff. We want to make sure everybody is safe. Have a good time. Thank you.
That's interesting because that Heroes tournament should go off regardless. And the reason why I say that is because, you know what? Our Marines will perform rain, shine, or otherwise, so why shouldn't we?
Failure's not an option.
Exactly. City Attorney.
No report, Mayor.
Great, thank you very much. That's going to take us into closed session, item number 13, which is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, and item 14, conference with labor negotiators. Thank you. You're all, but this might take us a little while. Are we ready? Okay. Let the record reflect that we're back in open session. As to item number 13 in closed session, we discussed the issues and direction was given to legal counsel. In reference to item 14, comments with, actually in item number 13, direction was given to council to initiate an action. On item 14, direction given to staff. That concludes the meeting. Thank you.